In this lesson, we're gonna start creating very simple cloth simulation. Before we start, I want to mention that there are a lot of limitations in Maya enclosed dynamics. For example, it's not fast like Marvelous Designer, and you can't create very advanced character cloth simulations. You can use it for creating simple simulations, and it's really easy to use. So let's get started. Make sure you open the scene called Table Start. And when you open the scene, you see I have a table and I have a plane. So let's create the first enclosed simulation. Let's select the plane and let's go to enclosed and let's click on create enclosed. And now you see in the outliner I have enclosed and I have nucleus system 2. So now if I hit play, nothing special gonna happen, just the plane fall. And now let's select the surface of the table and let's go to enclosed again and let's click on create passive collider. So now if I hit play, the cloth will collide with the table, and as you see we have some bends on the cloth. And let's go back, and in the enclosed shape, let's select the enclosed one, and in the enclosed shape one, if I go up, you see here we have the enable, and I can enable the simulation or disable that. And here you see we have the collide option. So when I check that off, now the cloth should not collide with the passive collider. But sometimes even if you turn that off, it's still colliding with the surface. So I don't know, maybe it's a bug or what. But in our case, you see it's working. And the self collide, when you turn that off, the cloth will not collide with itself. And here you see we have the collision flag, so you want to make it collide with the faces or the vertex or the edge. So if I go there and see in the solver display, I can turn on the collision thickness. And now you see I have the yellow thickness. And when you change the collision flag, for example, to edge, as you see, I get the edge visualization on the geometry. And you can change that to vertex. And now if I hit play, let's turn that off and hit play. And as you see, we have some intersections there and I can see the table. So if I go there and turn that to face, I can fix that problem. So now the collision happening on the faces. So you need to know when you want to change the collision flag from face to edge or to a vertex. So really it depends on the effect you want to create. So in our case, we leave that to face. And here from the name self collision flag, you can change that to vertex, vertex edge, and so on. This is for self collision. And let's go back there and change that to collision thickness. And you'll notice here we have the thickness. So if I hit 4 on the keyboard, and sometimes your closed edge has big gap between the collision and the surface itself. So when you decrease this value, for example, to 0.1, and now as you see, let's decrease it a little bit more, 0.05. And now if I hit 5 on the keyboard, as you see, I have very thin collision thickness. So this is very useful to reduce the gap between the cloth and the collided object. And let's turn that off. And here you see we have the collide strength. So if I change that, for example, to 5, so now the cloth will have more strength collision, as you see, and we have some bounciness. And let's set that back to 1. And the collision layer, I explained that in the particle section. And here you see we have the self collide with scale. So when you set that to vertex, and let's change that to collision thickness, and if I increase that, nothing gonna happen because we need to change the solver display to self collision thickness. So this is related to the self collision thickness. I can change that, as you see. And we didn't need to change the collision flag to face, just we need to change that, okay, to vertex to see that. So let's turn that off. And another thing I want to mention there, so when I hit play, and you see we have few bends on the cloth, right? This is because the surface doesn't have enough resolution. So we can go there to the modeling and click on smooth. But the problem is when you click the smooth, because we applied the enclosed and then the smooth, and this is not gonna work. So we need to delete the enclosed one. And then if I select that and let's go to mesh and smooth that to add more resolution. And now I can go to FX and create the enclosed again. And now we should see more bends on the cloth. As you see now we get more bends on the cloth because we have more resolution on the plane. And of course when you increase the resolution, the simulation time will get longer to calculate. So that's it for this lesson. See you in the next lesson.